Hey, this is Mad Movie Mark of the Mad Movie Mark Movie Review. Thank you for joining me as I review the 2017 romance drama Keep the Change.
You cannot bring up a conversation topic if neither of you is interested.
Okay, well, you are in luck because I was very interested in this movie. I loved this movie. I thought this movie was fantastic, and I almost feel honored to be able to even have watched this movie. It is a diamond in the rough that I had never heard of before, but it has fantastic acting from a cast of people who aren't actually actors. It has an amazing story, and it tugs at your heartstrings. I was bawling by the end of this movie, but it was like a type of crying where I felt so much relief at what had happened. I was so happy at what had happened, and I was on this emotional roller coaster through the entire movie that I finally just let it all out, and I was able to breathe and able to finally feel some relief. I felt like I went through an event in my life and not just through a movie. So Keep the Change has a 100% fresh rating from the critics on Rotten Tomatoes and an 83% fresh rating from the audience. I am currently reviewing every movie that has a 100% fresh rating from the critics in chronological order, and then once I review them all, I will rank them from worst to best. This movie stars Brandon Polansky as David and Samantha Elisifon as Sarah. Now, both of these actors and actress have autism in real life. In fact, I think most of the cast has autism in real life. Now, we first meet David, who he wears sunglasses. He tries to make it seem like he does not have autism. He tries to keep it cool. He calls other people in his group weird because they have autism. So he tries to kind of make himself sound better by kind of making other people feel worse about themselves. So in the beginning of the movie, we learn that he is in trouble with the law for some reason. And instead of going to jail, he has to do this like community service where he goes to the Jewish Community Center. Now at the Jewish Community Center is the other actors and actresses who have autism. Now we do see David try to date online. He makes a lot of dates with people online, but then when he goes and actually goes on the date, his autism tics and his autistic traits come out, and it kind of makes the dates that he's on, they kind of run away. They kind of don't want to date with him. He acts different than everyone else, and he does have a bit of a dirty mind at sometimes, but he kind of scares people away. Now, he's given a task in this Jewish community center with this girl named Sarah. They are tasked to go to the Brooklyn Bridge and write a report about how much they liked the Brooklyn Bridge. Now, Sarah is all about this. She's all into doing this homework. She's all into the group aspect of the community center. She loves being at the community center. She loves having these friends around her. She really loves the experience. Whereas David tries to play off that he doesn't like any of this and that he's too cool and too good for any of this. So he is not into going to the Brooklyn Bridge. But eventually, Sarah convinces him to go because this is really important to her. She really needs to do this because the teacher asked her to do this. So they end up going to the Brooklyn Bridge, and then he's like, okay, bye, have a nice life. And she's like, wait, we need to write a report about this. So he says, okay, whatever, you want to go back to your house or whatever. Now, she only knows how to get to her house by riding the bus because she counts the stops that the bus is going on. So he kind of gives her a little flack about that and says, you're an adult, you've been living here your whole life, and you don't know how to ride the bus. Now, eventually, Sarah lets it be known that she thinks that David is very attractive, and she would like to, go out with David. So they end up going out on a couple dates. They blend very well with each other. He is able to kind of let his hair down and be a little bit more vulnerable around him than he is in real life. He is able to kind of stop worrying about what people are going to think about with his autism because she has autism as well. So he's able to be himself. He's able to not worry about the tics that he has. He's able to not worry about if he has some outburst or something. He's able to just be comfortable in his own skin, which I don't feel like throughout the movie he was able to do that up until this point. So she brings that out in him. This is why his other dates didn't work before, and now that he has someone who understands him, he finally is able to be himself. So they end up dating for a while, and then there comes a time when Sarah is supposed to be doing this game night with her friends from the community center, and one of the gentlemen who runs the game night he doesn't know that David and Sarah are dating, and he says, "David, why don't you come over to game night tonight with us? So we'll have a lot of fun, and you can bring your cousin too. His cousin is a famous actor, and this gentleman who runs game night has kind of a crush on his cousin." And David says, "Oh, I can't do that because I'm going out with Sarah tonight. She's my girlfriend." And David's like, "Oh, well, if she's your girlfriend, definitely don't come to game night tonight, okay? Stay away." So, of course, David wonders, like, what's going on here. So he goes to the game night, and when he goes there, he learns that this other guy at game night also thinks that Sarah is his girlfriend. And then the other guy takes David aside and says, "Look, like, Sarah is kind of like the village bicycle. She dates a lot of people. She hooks up with a lot of people. She really doesn't have any emotional attachment to anyone. She just kind of dates around and sleeps around." So when David confronts Sarah about this, she says, "Hey, look, like, how am I supposed to know who I want to be with if I don't, like, go out with different people, if I don't try different people out? How am I supposed to know who I can trust?" You know, it seems like it's a very hard dating world for people who have autism, and she's kind of in a place where she doesn't know if she's ever able to invite someone into her heart like that. So she just kind of dates a lot of people to kind of see what she likes and what she doesn't like. Eventually, she agrees that she's just going to see David just by himself. They're going to be steady, I guess, using an old term. They're going to be committed to each other, and she's not going to date anyone else. Now, David's parents, who are rich and who basically pay for everything that he has. Oh, and the reason why the movie's called Keep the Change is because David always has cash on him. And whenever he does like a taxi ride or he goes somewhere that requires him to pay, he always pays much more than he needs to, and he tells people to keep the change. We'll figure out why later. I did kind of question that, like, is it just because he's rich and he's throwing money around? But that's not the reason. We'll figure that out later. But his parents, who are rich and who provides this lifestyle for him, they hate the idea that he wants to date this girl named Sarah, who's also autistic, because at least his mom does for sure, because his mom thinks that he needs to date someone who can take care of him when he's older and when they're gone, and not someone who is also so reliant on other people that she can't take care of her son. And she says, "Why don't you date someone else who like you can actually like help you when you're older, when we're not around?" And there is a very touching moment, considering the background that he has, considering where Sarah came from, like all the roadblocks that was in between their relationship and getting together. He finally comes out and he says, at this point in the movie, "I like her because she's weird and I'm weird too." Which, oh man, that started the waterworks right there. I know children who have autism, and I watched the movie Temple Grandin also. She has autism, but for some reason that just made me so emotional when he said that, because he is not actually, I don't think he's actually weird. He was born with something that he can't control, and so was she, and they're different than other people, but I wouldn't necessarily like label that as weird. But that's what he says: "She's weird and I'm weird too. That's why I like her." Now, he does mess up really badly later in the movie with Sarah. He introduces Sarah to his cousin, and she starts telling this story about how they first had sex and how he was a virgin. And there's some graphic details that she goes into with this hookup scene that they had. And he ends up telling her to be, like, shut up, basically. And then she runs away and she never wants to talk to him again. She stops taking his calls. By the way, there's a lot of spoilers here. I'm getting to the end of the movie, so I'm going to spoil the end of the movie if anyone hasn't seen this and wants to. But she stops taking his calls, and she stops, like, he tries to go to the play that they're putting on, because they're putting on a play in the community center, and she refuses to see him. And then finally he remembers that she takes the bus stop and she counts the stops, and he remembers what bus stop she goes to. So he meets her at the bus stop. I mean, she has no other choice but to take the bus home, because that's the only way she knows how to get home. So he meets her there because he knows that she can't go anywhere. She can't run away. She has to take this bus. So she gets on the bus, and he tries to get on the bus too. And when he's trying to pay for the bus fare, he's trying to count the money in his wallet, and he's trying to figure out how, because they only take exact change. He tries to give him a big bill and say, keep the change, but he's trying to count the money in his wallet, and he's fumbling through it, and he can't do it. And you learn that he can't count. Like he can't, if the numbers are too big, if it's like more than 1, 2, 3, he can't count. And that's why he does the keep the change thing. Obviously, then I start crying again, and I start getting emotional again at the fact that that's why he does the keep the change thing. And then Sarah's sitting down on the bus, and he calls over to her, and he's so vulnerable, and and this is just a side of him that we haven't seen before, a side where he needs help, a side where he's crying out for help, a side where he lets himself be vulnerable. And he only does this with Sarah, and he like does it at this point in the movie, and it's just so touching. And he calls to her and he says like, please help. And she goes over to him and she counts out the change, and then they sit next to each other and they hold hands, and that's like the end of the movie. And oh my God, what a touching movie. So beautifully acted by everyone in this movie. I was like amazed when I read that these people weren't real actors and actresses. By the way, this page has no Wikipedia, no Wikipedia page, so I had to basically go to IMDb and look at the trivia to figure out that these people aren't really actors and actresses. They all really had autism. Honestly, like Sarah, I could kind of tell that Sarah in real life was autistic. David, I was kind of on the fence. I wasn't sure if he was or not. But to learn that they're both autistic, they're not real actors, it completely blows my mind at how well they did in this movie. It is superb, fantastic. Like I said, I was blown away that they were this good and not real actors and actresses, and that they're really autistic. Amazing. It just shows you that in this movie, when he says I'm weird and she's weird too, and people are treating them differently, like they're treating them like they're not real people, like they're not worth anything, that there's people out there who are not autistic who cannot act like this. They could never go out there and do this type of performance. And so if you're autistic, you can do anything else anyone else can. Even better. They did it better than so many other people could do. And you can go out there and you can do it, and you can do it just as good, if not better than everyone else. And I absolutely love that. I've always believed that. I still believe that. And I was like bawling and clapping and cheering and everything at the same time. I was so happy for the couple in this movie. I was so happy that this movie was made. I was so happy for the actors and actresses who were able to be in this movie. It's just simply superb. It is basically a perfect movie. There's not one thing I can think about in this movie that I didn't like. I mean, maybe the beginning of it was a little slow, the pacing, but man, that would be really nitpicking in this movie. That would be like, I mean, I don't want to tear apart a movie that is this fantastic, that is this spectacular, that is this amazing. And what I can't understand, I think IMDb has like a 6.5 on this movie. Like, what are they? How is that possible? How could you not give this movie a perfect score? It is. I mean, maybe because before this movie, I saw a couple movies that I gave a 5 to that I really didn't like, and this movie was just such a breath of fresh air. And this movie was it hit everything that I wanted in a movie. It was hitting. And then the hardest part, getting the ending right. It was correct. It was perfect. It was right. This movie is a 10 out of 10. Easiest 10 out of 10 I've probably done in a long time. I would never give this anything lower. Fantastic. Thank you to those who brought this movie to us as an audience. Thank you for making this movie. Beautiful movie. I can't say anything else more about it. It's just fantastic. I hope you join me next time when I review a movie that is not fantastic called Daphne. Thank you. I have a great day.